Okay, thanks. Can you all hear me now? You all can hear me?
Yes,
Yes, I can hear.
Okay, thanks. So that was Baha Hilo talking about Bethlehem. He grew up there. He's also an activist with a couple of groups educating people about what life is like in Palestine. So to comment on Baha's talk just now, we have Dr. Roslan Hashim. Dr. Roslan was formerly Deputy Vice Chancellor of USM for Sustainability and Institutional Development, and he is now a lecturer in physics, right? Yeah, at USM, with 1 year more to go to retire. 1.5 years more. So, and he's an honorary member of Ikram. Over to you, Roslan.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Anil, and the rest of my friend in this hall and online. Yes, what we have seen, the sharing from Mr. Baha is one tiny part of the long process. This is a continuation of suppression, intimidation from past 75 years. So same like what we saw the event on 7th of October is not started from vacuum, like what journalists used to say. I mean the commentators from around the world. It must go back to the past 75 years, 1948, where the state of Israel was created. And then we see ongoing oppression and intimidation and confiscating the land. And as we speak now, even in West Bank, they confiscated the land and the house and put an offer on the online who want to rent the house and whatnot. But the event from 7th of October, I've seen that this event stopped because many of them go back to the US and Europe because the war that's stopped. I mean the escalation of violence, of course, started spurred from 7th October until now. We've seen close to 20 over 1,000 deaths, and half of them are children and women in Gaza, especially, and also in West Bank. So I see the sharing that we have tonight is good. That we invite our friend from the non-Muslim, because we Muslim have endured this celebration and catastrophic event more than 7 decades, but still not succeed. But from the event of last 7th of October, we see that the response around the world, especially from non-Muslim, which I think make an impact. Because if me bring this issue, I say this because you say this is a Muslim, Muslim affair. But if we involve non-Muslim, this is going to make the change. High impact change to the world. Because sharing, of course, by Brother Hilo, as a Muslim living in Bethlehem, of course, from the Muslim perspective. But if we want to get a big impact, it should be seen from the humanitarian and right to exist, the basic right. No, that will make more impact to the cause of Muslim Palestine in the West Bank as well as in Gaza. So we hope this is going to be starting point basically where Ikram and Aliran and our friend in Penang to start a discussion and to see how can we work together. But of course, we need to clear some, doubts of what happening. And I see this event today. Hopefully, we can clear some doubts from our discussion from heart to heart because we know each other before. So we hope we manage to clear doubts, and then that will lead all of us to go and find on the internet with a clear narrative, with a truer narrative. Because there's of course, the oppressor, which is the Zionists now, controlling the media. So that's complicated thing. Actually, the issue to me is very simple. It's straightforward. You oppress somebody, you enter the house, you confiscate, you're killing the mother and killing the children, and then you claim that this is your house, and then when the owner of the house retaliates, you say the owner of the house doing crime, and I, as an oppressor, have the right to defend. So this is what's happening now. But since the Zionists controlling the media, it's camouflage of the understanding of the people at large and blurring the real fact on the ground. So make it difficult for us to know the truth. So I think that's my first take of tonight, and then pass back to Mr. Anil. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roslan. For me, it's very significant that we are organizing together with Ikram, because I think most of us see this as not an issue which is the monopoly of any particular religion, but as a multi-religious issue. And this was clearly stated by the Palestinian representative in the UN, where she said this is not a religious issue, but a question of justice. So I'd like to just raise 2 points at this point. And one is the issue of consistency, and the other one is I'd like to touch a bit on the Christian Zionist angle. So just start with the issue of consistency in approaching this topic of what's happening in Palestine now, in Gaza, especially. I think in the past, many of us look at particular religious, particular issues of injustice and conflict and war and genocide from a religious angle. And this is only, I think, is only natural because we tend to maybe feel more sympathetic to groups who share our own background, perhaps. So, for example, when the Tamils in Sri Lanka were being persecuted in the north and all the people being killed, many of the Tamil Indians in Indian Malaysians were feeling very uneasy and maybe upset because maybe they know relatives there or their families came from there, their ancestors came from there. So I think that's only natural where we look at it from that perspective. So similarly, many of the Palestinians are probably 94% Muslim, maybe more now, and it was like 6% Christian. So probably less now in Palestine, as many have emigrated. So it's perhaps quite natural for Muslims everywhere also to feel particularly strongly about this. And similarly, in other parts of the world, if you have people of your similar religious background and being persecuted, and I think it's only natural for like Christians to feel upset about Christians being persecuted elsewhere. Similarly, for Muslims being persecuted in certain countries, I think it's only natural to feel that way. But I think the challenge for us now is to rise above all these differences and be express solidarity with different people who are coming from different backgrounds to us. And I think that's very important to, we want to build solidarity among different religions, different ethnic groups, especially for us in Malaysia, because things are so compartmentalized in Malaysia. We see a lot of people see the Palestinian issue as a Muslim issue, the Tamil persecution in Sri Lanka as an Indian issue, and I think it's time to rise above all that to extend solidarity with one another. And it's also important to be consistent. Like if you are against genocide, you're against genocide affecting anybody. If you are against religious persecution, you should be against religious persecution involving any religious group. So one of the mistakes, perhaps one of the mistakes we made is to look at this as a religious issue, and also to look at certain human rights issues as liberal or not conservative, liberal. For example, the whole issue of ISID. There are groups in Malaysia who are protesting when Mahathir said that they would endorse ISID, ratify ISID, and the administration had to backtrack and remove it. Because there are certain groups agitating, saying that, this will affect our own religious or ethnic situation in Malaysia. But now when it comes to like trying to get Israel into the criminal court, we can't because we haven't ratified the Rome Statute and all that. No? So that's why it's very important to look at human rights, international human rights laws and international human rights treaties and standards to try and, because you never know when your people of your own background will be affected. No? And not only that, we have to rise above that, no, to express solidarity with one another. So in the same way, when it comes to human rights issues affecting people in Malaysia, for example, like even Palestinian refugees in Malaysia and refugees from other backgrounds, the children don't have the right to go to school. Although we have Palestinian students in the universities, these are refugees, but I think they are the exception. No? But for children going to government schools, I think they are not allowed to attend government schools. Similarly, and refugees from other countries as well, Rohingya, who are mainly Muslim, but still they cannot go to school, normal schools. The stateless children in Sabah. So that's why we need to look at things beyond a religious perspective and apply human rights, acceptable human rights standards to everybody. So that's one thing. And then like refugees not being allowed the right to work. So what happens then is the refugees still go to work, but then they don't have much bargaining power and they are paid less than normal, even less than the normal migrant workers, because they are undocumented. So the employers have a stronger hand in saying, you don't want to take this job, then too bad, no? And give it to others. So that's why and then also like, for example, refugees and migrants in Malaysia, you go to a government hospital, they charge many times more the hospital rate for Malaysians. So that's one thing we have to try and look at. If you want to express solidarity with different things, we have to try and apply the same standards across the board. The other issue is Christian, just want to touch on Christian Zionism, because that's another thing holding back people from other religions from expressing solidarity with the Palestinians, because And this is repeated in places like United States as well. No? You have Christian Zionism, is very strong lobby in the US. And even it started off as the seeds were planted in the Protestant movement from the 15th century, 16th century. The whole thing about Zionism, and then different editions of the Bible having different commentary notes which are pro-Zionist, the commentary section in the Bible, especially in the US. So that is also crept into not just Protestant Christianity, but also within the Catholic Church, even in Malaysia. I mean, I think you ask your Catholic friends in Malaysia, I think probably maybe more than half, maybe 75 or 80% would be supporting Israel, no? Just to be frank, no? Because they see that, and a lot of that is due to distortion of Christian understanding, because they look at the people of Israel as the chosen people from the Old Testament, no? And Israel as the promised land. And so they think that somehow God is behind the people of Israel because they are chosen people, and God is behind Israel because that's the promised land for the Jews. But what is interesting is that the other day when I was talking to Jama, he said in Muslim teaching also, understanding also, is they look at the Jews as the the chosen people, right, at that time. But when Prophet Muhammad came, those people who followed the Prophet, they were considered the chosen people, right? Correct, Jama? And so I think and that's why even in Christianity, there's this misunderstanding, because for mainstream Christianity, when Jesus came to the world, the chosen people are now the followers of the new kingdom, and no longer a particular race of people, no? So even Jerusalem, which was considered a holy spot in the Old Testament, in the New Testament, especially in Revelation, the final book of the Bible, they talk about a heavenly Jerusalem. So you can see that the Jerusalem itself is no longer the physical Jerusalem, but a new heavenly city which encompasses everybody who's in the kingdom. So that's, I think, a key point. And what happened is that people, unfortunately, Zionist Christianity still approaches Jerusalem and the promised land and the chosen people as somehow located in that part of the world. So that is the problem. But the main argument is, some people say, is God is not a real estate agent, not interested in physical land, but he's talking about a higher kingdom which follows the values of the kingdom: justice, peace, solidarity. So these are just a couple of points I've raised. So I'd like to open it up to the floor for any other views you want to add. Please come here.
From my very limited understanding, coming from Muslim detail, but also reading up on the events going from Instagram to a few sources here, there, and everywhere, it's incomplete, I'll say this much. But the pieces I've gotten is that somehow or other, the people who would come to found the, as we might say, the illegal state of Israel, did so, and this is a danger here in this country as well, on a basis of nationalism. They decided that, unlike scripture, that rather than go across the earth until God gave judgment and said, all right, you're free to go to the promised land that I have promised you, some people decided to use nationalism, or rather Zionism, in order to construct what they called God-given state on earth. instead of what you call waiting for divine decree. And this is part of the reason why we're in this mess right now. And as much as what they call the Christians seem to believe that they're the chosen people and all that, the Zionists of Israel, and I'm making this distinction here, there's a big difference between Judaism and Zionism. The Zionists want their cake here on earth, as opposed to everybody else, the Muslims who what they call believe in Allah, the Christians who properly believe in Jesus Christ and what they call his teachings proper, meaning that Jesus will what they call eventually come down and settle things. And the true Torah Jews who believe in the Torah and not something called what they call the so-called Babylonian Talmud, mentioned at what they call at length by Netanyahu himself. These are the people who believe that there will be a proper reckoning from God, a proper decision from him, as opposed to using nationalism to create a so-called utopia that terrorizes people across the board. That is what I kind of understand about the whole situation at this point. I'm not saying it's perfect, but this is what I see. And there's a lot of people fragmented about this. The good news is that I didn't catch your name. Anil. Chris. The good news is that there are a number of people slowly realizing this amongst Americans, among people who somewhat realize that the behavior of the Zionists is similar to imperial occupiers that have done this sort of, excuse my language, shit across across the times. Everything from what they call the British occupying us to even the people in Congo who've had their resources stolen and what they call them their efforts pretty much undermined. They can't even have their own form of independence because they're forced to work to mine the materials needed to power our smartphones. Believe it or not, we rely heavily on this stuff. It's even worse than blood diamonds that were pretty much marketed so many years ago by DBS. And there's another topic for discussion. But that's the overview. I don't have that much information from what I've gathered over my very limited understanding, but that's how I feel about this whole situation. I think it's not just, as you mentioned, it's not just a religious situation. Patterns have been seen across history. And unless we pay attention to it and rectify this, it's going to get worse.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your.
I have no quarrel with what the previous gentleman has said about the overview. And I am,
Yeah.
sorry?
Yeah.
If you introduce yourself first.
Oh, sorry, I'm Dr. Ronnie Wee. I'm a resident of Penang for a long time. I have no quarrel at all with what the previous gentleman has said about the overview. And I feel quite strongly that the Israelis are unjust and very unjust and are oppressing the Palestinians and trying to steal their land. So I think, my sympathies are all on the side of the Palestinians. But what puzzles me and what I don't understand, and what I want to bring up the question is, did Hamas do the right, execute the right strategy in organizing and making that raid into Israel and abducting hostages? What do they hope to gain from that particular action? I cannot see that they do their cause any good. I cannot see that they, what they've done is they have made the Israelis commit even greater atrocities than what was committed during the raid. So a lot of people in the world are sympathetic to the Palestinians because of the atrocities of the Israelis in this particular instance. But the decision to raid and the decision to start all this particular war was a decision of Hamas. Was it the right decision? Could they have, thought of a different strategy? What exactly is Hamas's end game or game plan? Do they think they can win, a military win, means, or what exactly are they after? What is the immediate objective of Hamas? Is it to throw the Israelis all out of Palestine, or is there? Do they accept a two-state solution, or what exactly does Hamas want? And that is the bit that worries me. I am quite clear that the Israelis have oppressed the Palestinians, but it's the strategy that Hamas is pursuing now, the correct strategy for the Palestinians. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Roni, for your question. Yeah, I mean, on the surface, we see that Hamas try to find problem because they know when they attack, Israel will going to retaliate even more. But on the background, I mean, like I mentioned, for the past 75 years, there's a constant operation, falsification of land, murdering, and then behind the wall that we see 6,000 Palestinians in Israeli prison. Among them, 44 years being detained without any charge. They're not allowed to see their lawyers. They're being raped, intimidated, the broken bone left without any treatment, die on the floor, flogged with other prisoners, denied everything. So you imagine the background. So that's why we say this event of 7th October that Dr. Roni mentioned does not, let me try to finish, okay? So you can imagine this on the background. And then plus, during the last UN meeting where Netanyahu showed the new map of Israel, Greater Israel, which covers the whole area with a big plan. And they're not hiding their intention to flush the Palestinians out of West Bank and Gaza completely. They brag about it. They say it clearly. So what Hamas is not so-called it's a military, but Hamas, the word Hamas coming from the resistance, group of resistance. So what option do they have? Who is going to hear their suffering? Because they're being denied. 6,000 Palestinian children and women, elderly in the prison. Who's going to listen to them? And then sooner or later, and then this atrocities is happening on daily basis. You see, when they happen on daily basis, you accumulate over 75 years. You cannot see, cannot see the quality. But the event on the 7th October opened up to me, it's a strategic move because UAE already normalized, Saudi Arabia already normalizing with Israel, and then Turkey even normalizing with Israel. So as Hamas claim themselves to protect the safety of Palestinians in the West Bank and the Gaza, has no choice, but they have to strike 7th October event, even though they know the revelation become greater on themselves. But on the inside, no, the media, the public at large, in the UK, in the US, in the Europe, 7,000 over mass demonstration, the event around the world. And people now start to talk about the plight of Palestinians. And then Israeli is very afraid of this. That's why they killed more than 60 journalists. I mean, broadcasters on the ground, because they want to silence the atrocities that they committed. So to me, there's no easy solution. You might think the option of discussion on the table already happened. They already given, the president already given the chance to Fatah. Fatah is movement, more political, soft discussion on the table, created 1959, Fatah. But what happened when Fatah is given the opportunity to discuss with Israel? More and more land, initially Palestinian land, only 3% Arab Jews in Palestine. But now it's a turned the table. I cannot remember the exact percent of the land which is in the West Bank and in the Gaza. But majority of the land belong to the Israel. So I think this is the strategic move taken by Hamas to bring the attention of the people around the world, because they had no choice. They had no choice. They live in the tunnel for many, many years. It's not their choice, but this is the only option that they have.
But I don't see the thing, because their action strengthens Netanyahu. Netanyahu is facing position.
Our online audience can't hear you.
Sorry?
Our online audience. But,
Yeah, maybe-
but perhaps we get somebody else speak first. You wanted to say something? No? Anybody else? Francis.
Hi, Francis. Francis Low from Aliran, based in Penang. I just want to say that let's not mix up the different things that we're talking about now. I think Anil tried to situate our discussion in the context of Malaysia and persuading Malaysians, regardless of it is not a religious problem. It's a problem that everybody, you're concerned about human rights, you're concerned about justice and all that. You should be concerned about this issue. And I think there's a huge problem there already. And, you talk about all the divisions in society, misunderstandings and all that. And personally, I think that's what a group like ours, our gathering should be focused on. That actually we should be taking whatever we know about this, not debating about Hamas or who's doing right, talking about the future and all that. No, those, for me, the cheek of America to come and say, oh, you should now have a two-state solution, and I've already sent my people to Israel to go and talk and work things out. What the hell? It's none of your business. It's for the Palestinians themselves to work this out among themselves, what kind of state they want. It's going to be problematic. Here we cannot even talk about unity government. So they will have their own problems. Then, Ronnie wants to go into this whole discussion about, is it correct strategy? Are we doing the right thing at this moment in time? Are we, strengthening Netanyahu and all that? That's another important issue. I want to focus on the first one. And for me, it's very straightforward. I'm an old-fashioned, political activist. I grew up at a time in the 1970s, 1980s. We were taught about Vietnam. We mobilized to fight the American presence, imperialism in Vietnam. And the other related issue that we were very concerned about, my whole political education is about Palestine. Same problem, same imperialists, and we related one to the other. And the next problem was actually Latin America, Allende, socialist government, government elected power, CIA, Henry Kissinger went to topple him. So this actually is very straightforward. There is this international system which is dominated by US imperialism. It's got all these Western allies, and they screw us all up. Whether you are Palestinian, we're Muslims, or whether you are China, or whether you are Indo-Chinese, Vietnamese, or Latin Americans. And I think it is very important for us to take this message out, to persuade all the Christians in Malaysia. Because these people are very influenced by Leon Uris' Exodus. They actually saw that movie and they think it's the gospel truth. About how they, this is this kind of rubbish. And for them, actually, the Jews have all the rights to this land because it's already mentioned in the Bible. When I wrote this thing for Aliran, which I circulated, my friends in Sabah, Sarawak, who are evangelicals, who are involved in, Christian, they wrote back to me, Francis, you are wrong. So they quoted, the Old Testament. King David and Israel is already mentioned there. And last Sunday in church, in the psalm that we were singing, and we talk about, protect Israel and all that. So they, but that's Israel of the Old Testament. It's not the modern day Israel, which was created about 100 years ago or so, after 1948 perhaps. So I think it behooves us actually to do our messaging properly. And there'll be a time when we want to talk about and debate about what is the future going to be like. And maybe on that occasion we ask the Palestinians to kind of share with us rather than us telling them what to do. Or if it is on another occasion, strategies. How do you fight, an Israeli government or that? Maybe, it's out of my, I don't know what's the correct thing. I think that they have been brilliant digging all these tunnels and all that, and unfortunately the Israelis are going to flood them. They are going to pump seawater and flood this whole bloody thing. And it might be the end of them. And then you see the destruction of that. So we can talk about that, but whether they are doing it tactically the right thing, strategically, where will it lead to, and this, this stupid fellow, what is his name? The defense secretary of defense. And so, you might win the tactical battle, but you'll lose the strategic battle and all that. That's not for us. Actually, I would like us to focus on how do we take this messaging out to our own people here. So that as we convince Christians or Buddhists and all that to become more focused on this issue, and also Muslims, because the Muslims have also a very, to my term, my overly, emphasize the whole Islamic thing, like the ordained, this is God ordained justice. No, my time, the old-fashioned thing was Yasser Arafat, George Habash, what's his name? And they were all socialists, these people. And they had, they worked with Nasser and his Baha Socialist Party and all that, just like, the socialists in Vietnam and in Allende and all that, they were fighting that. Today, in the post-Islamic world, in the 21st century, of course, new trends have emerged. People are trying to redesign their state politics government in Islamic terms. But this is actually more recent. There were earlier versions of it. And the Christians have also do this. They're also trying to now, the evangelicals, no, we must resign this, cannot this, allow this, cannot this. They're also doing that. And in India, they're also doing Hindutva. We must organize this along, Hindu lines. And in Burma, this is what the Buddhists are also doing. And in, Buddhist, so this is, for me, this is the focus that we should have. We should tell people very clearly there are certain kinds of things we should not allow for, to emerge. And there's solidarity involved.
Yeah.
And then there's for me, and then later on we can debate about, is there an Islamic solution to this, or is this a Christian solution? But for me, the first thing to tell people is that, hey, we're in this together. It's an anti-imperialist struggle. And the term that people like Ilan Pape, everybody talks about, these are all settler colonial projects, settler colonialism projects. South Africa, Argentina, Brazil, America itself, Canada, everywhere they screw up the natives. And exactly in this place. Yeah, Congo also. It's all, it's huge. There's a whole literature.
Anwar's position from the government. Then you repeat that. Anwar, what is Anwar's position? He is taking the religious aspect, the local of Islam. You only.
For me, the striking thing about Anwar, he thinks he's playing world politics around the world stage, but he's nobody there. They're not even giving him face, I mean, there are all these other people who are so much more important to him, and he had to go and quickly stand behind the Rowan, to get his face captured in the center. Actually, if he was, it's not, Indonesia is playing a more important role. I mean, their clinic, their hospital is there. They put their money where their mouth is. They have a hospital. They have doctors there. Jordan also doing this. Actually, Malaysia should not pretend that we are playing a very big role. We are second class. The first class is Arabs, the immediate Muslim world, including Turkey, Iran. These are the first players. And then there'll be Russia, China. These are the non-Muslim countries which they need. And I don't know. I mean, anyway, this is my take. I mean, because of our discussion, I think it will be all over the place if we just, mix up everything.
Okay, thanks, Francis. Anybody from online Zoom want to say something?
Okay, while waiting for that, I think I want to respond to make some correction. Yeah, you mentioned that it's coming from the discussion that Israel said that the chosen people, and then when Muhammad came, they were the followers of chosen people. So I have to make a very clear. I mean, I have to clarify that one. Chosen people from the teaching of Muhammad is the one who are the best conduct across the background, the race. There's a Arabic word in akramakum innallahi atqakum. The most noble among you is the close to God, which is following the teaching of God. But what Israel in their teaching, the chosen people, who how bad you do, you still the chosen one. That's why they're willing to kill. Kill is good. Other races being created to make them as your slave. So this is a different, chosen people, the followers of Muhammad, chosen people, those can be anybody or the best conduct, not doing atrocities and killing people, taking people belonging and still claim we are the chosen people. There is a grievous mistake in the understanding of the Islamic teaching.
So it's not identified by religion anymore.
It's yeah, the second, of course, the religion of Islam, you follow the teaching of Allah, you submit your will to the will of God. That Muslim mean. Yeah, of course, being non-Muslim, you don't follow the 100% teaching, but some of the conduct is like a Islamic in terms of cleanliness. Of course, the belief is one aspect of it, right? Which is an important aspect. But we cannot bring the book, the gospel or whatever, saying that we're the chosen people, but your action does not reflect the true teaching. So we have to make a very clear decision.
Mary, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, can I say something?
Yeah, sure. It's Mary Magdalene from our Aliran Expo.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that for many, many years, I think in Malaysia, this whole issue has been projected as a Muslim versus Jew, Yahudi, or worse still, Muslim versus Christian issue, rather than colonial, rather than settler colonialism or land grab by Zionist government. And I think even today, many see it as, how are we going to protect our help our Muslim ummah? Until today, people are talking about it like as if it's something that affects Muslims, right? So they're couching it in religious as a religious issue, And this is why I think it'll be very difficult to get sympathy and support from some non-Muslims who look at it as well. The Muslims are just looking at it as support for fellow Muslims, And worse still, they look at the Christians and the Jews as the enemy here lah, rather than the Zionist government. So I think if you want to move forward on this, we have to really change the way the narrative goes, change the way the issue is couched, and take it out of that religious thing. And I think in Malaysia until today, it is still seen as a religious issue, and which only you can only get the support of the Muslims lah if you see it as a Muslim issue, So I think there must be more effort in projecting it as not a religious issue, but an issue which affects Palestinians of all background lah, and it is a land grab issue, right? It's settler colonialism, and in that way, I think you will be able to get the sympathy and the support of the others as well.
Thanks, Mary. I think also, this applies to both sides, the Muslims and the Christians as well. And Christians as well, because many of them see it also as a religious issue.
Yes, agreed. Yes.
And that's one reason I think Francis is trying to organize some talks in the churches as well. Anybody else want to add anything? From online Zoom? Cecilia, you wanted to say something? Yeah, sure.
Please.
Yes, introduce yourself.
Anil, President Penang.
Also Aliran member. Right?
Also Aliran member. I think we need to be careful in our statement to distinguish between the political issue, which is Hamas, and the humanitarian issue, which is the loss of life of innocent civilians through war crimes. Because the background for this would be, from what I understand, the top leadership of Hamas are being sheltered in Qatar right now, and many of their weapons and munitions have support from the Iranian People's Guard, right? So, putting aside whether what they are doing is correct, which is to put a stop to the normalization of relations between Saudi, UAE, and Israel, and also a distinction that there is within the Muslim world the Shiite Sunni behind the scenes conflict for social political power in the region, as well as the Qataris attempt to be the main arbiter of hostage taking. They try to be the middleman, but they are also harboring Hamas at the same time. So they are playing this careful balance where they try to fight against Saudi control as well, and maybe a support of the Houthis in Yemen. So I think for our group, perhaps we should consider, we have to be very clear that it's about human rights. It's about IDF misconduct, because what they are clearly doing with tank sweeps and munitions being shot in, it doesn't really hit the tunnels, I believe. I see the Hamas militants are completely unaffected by the missile strikes. Actually, it's just people that are dying, and there seems to be genocide underway. I read that they are moving south now, and there is gas reserves on the coastline of Gaza that they want access to, that all the West wants access to, and we need to be very clear that this is a humanitarian issue and draw the line, because if we are labeled as a pro-Hamas or in any way pro a certain thing, we are also playing into the hands of a bigger social political thing. Yeah.
Thanks. I mean, yes. Yeah. I think earlier Ronnie was speak again.
Yeah.
You go ahead.
Riz here again. Excuse me for what you call for hogging it again. We will toss a bit about history. I'll try not to make it too long. Somewhere along the lines, we had what was called the Balfour Agreement, which pretty much the British colonizers came up with the wise idea of trying to divert few Jews into what was then called Palestine to form up something called Israel. We know that part. Well, at least some of us do. We have also seen patterns. I know maybe, feel free to toss the book at me on this one because my history is not that strong. We have seen way back in history, back when we were occupied by the Brits and also by previous conquerors, including the Dutch as well. They wanted one thing from us. They wanted our resources. Before they even decided to give up put the holy book and say, hey, you know what? Whatever it is you're believing, we want you to believe in this instead. And there's a joke that comes up in African nations that says, we saw the missionaries who came about and we noticed them praying and we asked, how can we be like you? We had land back then and the missionaries had none. So they said to us, shut your eyes and we will teach you how to pray. When we opened our eyes, we had the book in our hands, but our lands were gone. That's exactly what happened with our spices. That's why what we call pretty much the colonizers who came to not just this country we call Malaysia, but also what we call India, breaking it down into Pakistan as well over history. Also what we call South Africa with all the wars and then some. There has been interference across the board over Allah knows so how many years. And it seems like it has not stopped, going by whatever is happening down in Israel right now. Now, I understand earlier from, I think I told him something? From Ronnie, that you said something about Hamas being, whether what they did was the right thing to do. But consider our history again, if we drop back a few notches. Way back in the beginning, the British considered our freedom fighters as terrorists. They fought against the British influence in order to give us our freedom. The British looked at them and said, oh, great. These guys are taking apart our interests. They're not allowing us to steal, take from from the Malaysian people their resources with impunity. So let's just mark them as terrorists and write history in such a way that it's these are the bad guys and we're the good guys. This is the hijacking of the narrative I think somebody else mentioned earlier. Your name, sir? Francis, was it? Yeah. What? Francis. Yeah, you mentioned there's a hijacking of the narrative. Our freedom fighters became terrorists in the eyes of the Brits. Similarly, the Hamas resistance against the Zionists. I'm not saying Jews, I'm saying Zionists. It is not a religious struggle. It is a struggle against occupiers, against a corrupt ultranationalist force that is, and you can see it affecting the entire world, affecting everything from our media to even people have said stuff about the food that we eat even. We haven't gone into the parts about Monsanto and then some, but that's a different story entirely. Suffice it to say that the real big fight is not a fight about Muslims versus Christians or Muslims versus Jews or whatnot. We are fighting against a pattern of genocide, which has surfaced now, but has seen patterns in times before. If we do not do something about this, the next few targets let's just assume that Palestine becomes extinct. All mention of the word Palestinian is pretty much erased completely from the board. It becomes nothing more than dusty old memory in history books, if you can even find this, because by that time, history would have been written in such a way that says, oh, they don't exist at all. They weren't there before. Israel was there and all it should be. then they'll come for us. Just like Martin Miller once said, first they came for what they call for the socialists, but I did not speak up because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the Jews and I did not speak up because I was a Jew. Then they came for me and there was no one to speak for me. Don't let that happen. We cannot let that happen. It's happened before, it may happen again. And if we don't do something, never mind what you call Muslims, never mind Christians, never mind Jews even, never mind what the heck you believe in. If the Zionists of Israel are allowed to continue with impunity, if we do not do anything actively to stop their advance somehow, whether if it's by boycotts, whether it's by writing to what we call ministers and telling them, no, we cannot stand idly by while some group just continues hurting people. The next targets will be us, be sure of that. I'm sorry, I'm being a bit impassionate here. I'm just a video gamer, let's put it that way. A jobless guy, what do you call a wandering spirit. But this is what I believe in strongly. And everybody's got a right to their opinion. I'm saying mine here for the board because I feel we have to treat this seriously. We all do.
Okay. Anybody online? Want to add anything? Is there, yes.
I agree that we should do something, and the something should be, sustained and determined. But if we are going to do something, we have to decide what is the best thing to do. We cannot just, say we must do something and anything will do. That won't work. We have got to decide what is the best way forward. And I don't understand Hamas's strategy. I don't really understand what I understand slightly, if there is atrocity by the Israelis against the Palestinians, you get world sympathy and you will break the relationship between Saudi Arabia and Israel. But what I've seen through the years is, after a while, the fighting will stop. Probably, after destruction of a lot of Palestinian homes and casualties and so on. Maybe the Israelis will seize control of more land. And I do not see that the Palestinians have gained anything from the Hamas raid. It doesn't seem to me it doesn't seem to me beneficial to the Palestinians for that raid. And if we really care for the Palestinians, we should, try and, pressurize events or move events to a channel which helps the Palestinians. So one reason why I think it is important to raise this question of whether it is the right policy for Hamas is because this is the thing that will affect the Palestinian well-being the most. The policy which is undertaken by the leaders at Hamas. And if we really care for the Palestinians, we should, give our opinion to the Palestinian leadership about how we think the best way is, to go to achieve the aims of the Palestinians. And, I agree entirely this is a land grab, this is, this is bad and this is everything. I think the Palestinians deserve more than just sympathy. They deserve our thinking about the best way to go. And I would have said that this is, important. I think this is the area for us to tell the Hamas leadership. I think, you know, I think I think an injustice doesn't excuse another injustice. And maybe the Hamas raid was an injustice in that innocent people were killed, according to the raped and hostages abducted. So maybe we should say, you know, yes, we are very sympathetic about what has been done to you. We are all with you, but maybe the way is not for you to commit atrocities, but you know, to fight in a way without committing atrocities.
Do you have any solution?
I don't, but I think this is what we should talk about, and I think we should, you know, discuss and talk. How can the Palestinians achieve what they want to achieve? You know, is it best by violence or is it best by other means? And I think if we really, Malaysians really care about the Palestinians, we should discuss this, you know, what is the best way for the Palestinians to go. Because I think the violence, you know, will put off, you know, a lot of non-Muslim sympathy as well. So, you know, I think this is what we should, you know, we should think about, and not just say sympathy. You know, sympathy, you know, it's good, but you know, we should do better than that. Thank you.
I just want to respond to a bit of what Ronnie said. I mean, about the Hamas thing on October 7 and whether there was a strategy. But sometimes I think when you are under oppression, people who are under oppression, they strike back in different ways, which we don't necessarily condone. We don't condone such violence, but it's not a symmetrical battle war, and to assume that there's some strategy behind it, I don't think there's much of a strategy, but maybe they didn't think that far ahead. But it's not just Hamas. I mean, if you go way back to New Testament times, I mean, that time the whole place was under Roman occupation, and every now and then you'll have Jewish rebels striking back against Roman occupation. They might kill some Romans, but then when the Romans retaliate, they'll send in their troops from Syria and everywhere, and you'll find mass crucifixions of the rebels. And even then, back then, talking about labeling, the Jewish rebels were labeled as bandits and terrorists by the Romans because they resorted to terrorist action, what we call terrorist action today. They had people, Jewish terrorists, striking back against Roman rule by killing collaborators with daggers in the crowds. And then, so there's no real strategy behind it, and eventually culminated in a big war, and the Jewish rebels lost heavily, and hundreds of thousands of Jewish people died because of that. But there's no strategy. It's just a reaction against Roman occupation. And the other thing which I think we didn't cover today is maybe also this Hamas action has also highlighted some of the tensions within Israel between the right-wing religious groups, the fascist groups, and more secular Israelis. And some say there could even be a civil war in Israel after this. No? And maybe that's why Netanyahu is also striking back this way, because he knows his political situation within Israel is also very tenuous. Anybody want to add anything else?
For me, one of the most disturbing things is that actually within the Jewish community in Israel, they are united. They are united on this issue against the Palestinians. And I cannot, for the love of me. I mean, how do you, you've got no heart. I mean, and this comes so clearly in all some of the discussions by Gideon Levy, Ilan Pape and all that. They know that these are Jewish leftist intellectuals. And they're saying that right now, because it gives the impression, I mean, what you're saying is as though there's a big fight going on within the Jewish community. Hell no, on this issue, they are united. They are not united. And I think it's very important for us to keep that clear distinction. Within the civil society, which is Jewish and Israeli citizens, there's debate. And on the role of the judiciary and all that, that Netanyahu was trying to eliminate. He wanted to, be primus inter pares, first among all this, the executive decides, not the judiciary. And then there is the Palestinian, the Arab citizens. And there are about 15 of these laws which discriminate against them. Just like just now he was talking about zone 3 like this. And then, of course, then there are the occupied people who have zero rights. So, and in this time and age, actually, I cannot understand how these, in the end, Jewish people who have suffered so much before, or their parents suffered, they have turned so Zionist and so imperialistic and so, anti other people. I mean, for me, that's the, people who have come. And somebody I've read, in the article that I wrote, this guy called Norman Finkelstein, though I'm talking about Norman Finkelstein, this American Jew who was a child, in the Holocaust. So his parents were,
Okay, on YouTube.
Yeah, the YouTube, Norman Finkelstein. And he refuses to condemn the Hamas. They're trying to trap him to say something. He refuses to say that. He said, how can I, if I was actually a Palestinian young man, and I have grown up the whole time in the Gaza Strip, which is 15 by 5 miles. That's all it is, And then you cannot even go to the beach because there are all these patrols. You can go beach, but you cannot go swimming. You have to churi to go swimming. And when you're there, he says, I jog 15 miles every day. I jog the length of this place, And then you can hear the music and the parties and all that they're having across the barrier. But you are not part of it. And then you are no job. Your schooling is disrupted all the time. He said, you are basically like my parents. He said, like my mother. He talked to his mother about her time in the concentration camp. They said, you are like actually living in a concentration camp that my mother lived in during the Second World War. I cannot judge these people, he said. And because the mother herself wish all the Germans to be killed because of what they did to the Jewish people in the Holocaust. So he said, I cannot judge these people. And precisely, I think also it's it's what is the correct thing to do vis-a-vis, the fighting against, using what tactics like. They have tried for about 2 years. They tried a non-violent struggle, and they were all just slaughtered. They tried the electoral process, and then they denied follow-up elections. So Hamas, and PA and all that, lousy leaders, all that, but no chance to throw them away. And then they turn to this violence. But I don't know. I mean, the whole, and they just use this as the main narrative. The narrative is actually, are you condemning Hamas or not? That's the first line of the discussion. If you haven't condemned, then don't talk. They refuse to allow you to talk.
But Francis, if I can interrupt you there, I mean, Hamas hasn't exactly been non-violent. I think for many years they have been shooting rockets into Israel, and they have actually, it is stated that they do not want the state of Israel to exist. That is one of their stated positions, and this is why they have the Iron Dome and all that. So it's not that Israel
We
has,
do not
it's not
repeat
that
that
Hamas
anymore.
has not
Earlier
been
on, there was
violent.
a decision. Let's distinguish Hamas actually from the PLO. The PLO worked this agreement out with in the Oslo Accords. And Hamas then was created because it disagreed with that. Now that basis it was always assumed that they are dead against, the existence of the Jewish state. Because prior to that, everybody denied the existence of the Jewish state until the Oslo Accords. Thereafter, look at the PA, right? It's such a sad team of people. I mean, the Mahmoud Abbas and gang and all that, they have lost all the legitimacy. And I'm so frightened that actually the only leaders they have left actually are the Hamas people.
But even today,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
has Hamas come out to say openly that they do accept the existence of Israel as a legitimate state, or they are out to destroy Israel? I think that is their point, and that's why the Israelis are
That's your
trying to get rid of
priority.
Hamas.
For these people is get the hell out of my land. That's their priority.
For the
I don't have
Palestinians.
feeding space, I don't have water, I don't have fuel, I don't have makan. You get out first, then we talk about your existence. I cannot even exist. So you are falling into the narrative that actually the West wants to set for us. I want to, we should try to look at it from the perspective of them who are now under siege. For 17 years, they've been occupied since 1967. And they've tried electoral process, they have tried non-violent demonstrations. They love Mandela. Mandela was very close to them, saying, hey, you must try this. But when they turned to violent conflict, Mandela said, I understand completely. Edward Said's position is exactly the same. I will never condemn you for doing this, but I personally feel that it's misguided. So it's complex. I personally don't know. I mean, people are the same.
Cannot hear.
Subra, you're muted.
Sorry. Okay. All right. I just want to say I support what Francis says. And in reply to what Mary asked, has Hamas ever renounced? Actually, there are two answers to that. One is, in the beginning, their first charter made it very clear they don't agree with the existence of Israel. All right. Then later on, they were willing to consider the existing borders. And in fact, they revised their charter once. All right. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, nobody asked Likud whether they agree, because from the sea to the river is also a slogan for the Likud. Does any CNN, BBC, all those idiots there ask the Prime Minister of Israel or their UN representative that do they agree to a two-state solution? No. It's only the older, Labour Party government which agreed. The current bunch of rascals who are running Israel totally don't agree to a two-state. They believe in a one-state. So why should Hamas alone be held to a different standard? Now, in reference to violence committed by Hamas, I'm not a supporter of violence, but sometimes Mahatma Gandhi succeeded because the British allowed him. But if the British had been large in number, equal in number to the Indians, and they have been as violent as Israel, Mahatma Gandhi would not have survived. India would have been more Netaji would have survived, not Subhash Chandra Bose. He would have been the hero, not Mahatma Gandhi. So the Israeli regime, the fact that they stopped BDS movement, boycott, divest, that's a non-violent movement. They equate that with anti-Semitism. If you are a BDS supporter like me, I'm referred to as an anti-Semitic. You cannot. If you close the way to non-violent moves, what else is left? The only solution is violence, although we don't like it. So I have no this thing about Hamas, this and all that. The other thing is, what is Hamas strategy? Operationally, they made mistakes. I agree. All right. First of all, they should have planned a little better, gone in, captured a whole lot of soldiers, and came back. But then remember, there were 3 different groups which went into Gaza on that morning. Hamas, they planned the whole thing, they went in. Islamic Jihad, which is not under the control of Hamas. And a third group, furious, angry, ordinary Gazan people. So the atrocities, not all of it was committed by Hamas. Hamas did commit atrocities, and I think operationally they were wrong. But strategically, it was right to invade Israel because the Palestinian issue had been swept under the floor. It is so frustrating for people like me. For the last 50, 60 years, we are fighting for Palestinians, and now nobody cares for them, you know? And then in Malaysia, it's a stupid thing. They make it an Islamic cause, which I find ridiculous, and I get angry. All right. So this thing, we try to have this double standards. We should hold the Likud government. Are they prepared to have a 2-state solution? No. Bloody, what's his name? Netanyahu goes to United Nations, holds a map, which makes it clear there's only one state. So I am for one state, where all people can stay, equal rights, equal votes. I'm not saying Jews should be sent away. They can't be sent away. This is like South Africa, You can't send the whites away from South Africa. Palestinians and Jews have to live together in that territory. That's what I'm saying. And last thing I want to say is, as Edward Said said, Professor Edward Said said, he was born in Jerusalem. He cannot go back to Jerusalem. His students in Columbia University, who have many generations have no link with the Holy Land, can walk in and declare to be an Israeli citizen. How much more unfair it can be? Thank you.